welcome to episode 6 of The Chosen Chats. I'm Jessica Nickson.
I'm Ava Virchmack.
And we're just flying. We're almost done with season 1.
I know, oh my gosh.
Okay, so I have to ask, what did you think about episode 6?
I knew as soon as it started, it's going to be the miracle with Jesus healing the leper. I do feel like it's still kind of slow.
I think this is probably as upticked as you're gonna get. Like it's a pretty mellow show.
Yeah.
And if you're waiting for like the lore to break out, I have like a secret for you. There's not gonna be. I mean, I'm sure the newer seasons are just awful and intense and all of that, but I mean, this is pretty the tempo that you're gonna get with The Chosen. I have to say, I love this episode. I love it so much. And the part that really gets me in this episode, one of the many, is when the leopard says to Jesus, "Please don't turn away from me." Oh, I could literally cry just thinking about that right there and then today. Because how many times in our life are we in pain and we feel abandoned? And Jesus' response to him was, "I won't. Please don't turn away from me. I won't." And this man who's gone through years and years and years of pain and suffering and isolation, again, that word, isolation, and all of a sudden he's just like, "God, you have to have forgotten me. How could you let me hurt like this?" And Jesus is just like, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." And I think it's so powerful because in the beginning of the show, you see everyone running away from this man.
Yeah.
You see the disciples, don't breathe his air. People didn't even want to be close enough to breathe the same air as this human. And Jesus walked right up to him, unafraid. And I thought that whole scene was so incredibly powerful and emotional, and it wrecked me. It brings me back to like all the moments in my life when I think about the suffering that I have gone through at different stages in my life. And I look at it now, in this moment, at 33 years old, I'm about to turn 34. And I just think to myself, God prepared me for this moment. God prepared me for judgment and hatred and isolation. You know, I just posted about politics on my social media and I lost probably like 7,000 followers. And I have plenty of friends who are influencers. Had they lost 7,000 followers, they would be in a ball, disheveled, distraught. Like, this is factual. This is like a big thing for influencers, your numbers to go down. And I don't blink twice at it because it's just, I feel like I've already faced a lot of rejection in my life and it all makes sense to me now. You feel so alone and forgotten, and then in retrospect, you're like, I was made for this moment right here.
Yeah. What do you mean by that? Like, it makes sense to you now?
Well, let's go to a specific time in my life. It was end of freshman year into sophomore year. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school, and they were freaking mean, y'all. Like, they were mean. I was really depressed my sophomore year, like very depressed, and I don't know how my parents didn't see it because my life consisted of waking up, going to school. I had 0 friends. It was like the classic story, don't feel bad for me, everyone's gone through it, but no friends, hated lunchtime because I had no one to sit with, and it was like the dread of the day, you know, at least in classes, you have assigned seats, but having to go to the lunchroom and not having anyone accept you, and just going home, and I would get in bed immediately. I would go home, I'd go home, get in bed, and I'd put on a movie, and I would just like curl up in a ball until dinner time. And that was my life till like the end of my sophomore year, where it was just kind of like, I can't be stuck in this pattern anymore. So there was a phase in my life where rejection made me curl up into a ball and feel small and confused. And I feel like rejection now for me is just another moment. Like, okay, well, there's now my point of view is, oh, there's 8.5 billion people in the world. I will find someone who likes me. Do you have any moments in your life where it hurt so bad that in that moment you were just like, I don't know why I'm going through this. And now, in retrospect, you kind of can compare it to God preparing you for something.
That's a tough one. There's still a lot of things that my only answer to all the pain is that I trust God that this is for a higher purpose. And I still don't know what that is because I still don't understand why so many, like, horrible, painful things. It's like, no, I don't get it still. But that is what gives me peace, is like, I do believe so strongly that I will understand someday, and I just ask for God to use this for a higher purpose, and hopefully, good come out of it eventually, because I still don't know.
You'll get your answers. I know you will. It's just a matter of time and for you to understand. For instance, this leper, I can't imagine what life must have been like for him to literally be shunned by everyone and be in pain. So he's not just in emotional pain, he's also in physical pain.
Yeah.
The scars on his body are open wounds that are constantly getting infected. When you get healed from something like that, I think you have the biggest testimony.
Yeah.
Jesus performed a miracle on a man that has been suffering. You know he's going to be loud.
Yeah.
You know his faith is going to be loud when he goes back into town. Just because he's saying this now, it's because you know how Jesus keeps saying, like, it's not my time yet.
Yeah.
There's a reason for it, and there's going to be a time where everyone is talking about their testimonies and their experiences with Jesus. And that gains followers. Yeah. Because all of these people are going out into the world during this time period and after Jesus' crucifixion, and they are spreading his message. These people are deeply affected. And I think that when someone has struggle and awful pain in their lives, the people that stick with Jesus and are still, strong in their faith, I think they're such beautiful humans. One of my girlfriends last year went through the most awful experience you could possibly imagine. Her testimony to faith moved all of us. It is hard. It is so hard to experience pain. And then you have Jesus come into your life and he's like, this is for a reason. And it might not be you don't want that cross to carry. I believe everyone has a huge cross to carry in life, and everyone's is different. And I'm sure if you had to choose what pain you're going to go through, you probably wouldn't pick the pain you're going through.
Right.
But I think there's a reason for all of it, as tough as that is.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things we talked about. It's like, do things happen for a reason? It's one of those things that I feel like I'm still in the in-between of, I hope so, that would be great and give me a lot of peace, but right now, I don't know. Well, it's for God's purpose, because I have no idea what that is yet.
That's faith.
Yeah.
I think that's another part of the series, is there's so many times where Jesus is talking in parables, and it sounds like an absolute riddle, and the disciples are like, Jesus, we're listening, but we do not understand what you are saying. Can you say it differently? Can you explain it? And Jesus is frustrated. And that's because Jesus speaks the language already. And he's trying to teach all of us how to speak. He's so far above us, and just like he's trying to teach us how to understand his language.
Yeah.
And he's like a frustrated parent. When I talk to the girls and I'm explaining something, if I use big words, I try to explain what they mean, but sometimes they're not getting it. Or sometimes Cody will say something and I'm like, oh, they don't know what that word means. You have to explain it to them. And it just gets frustrating. And I compare Jesus being a parent all the time. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Because for instance, you tell your kid every single night, go brush your teeth. They do not understand why they have to brush their teeth every single night. It's so out, and it's something very basic, and it's so out of their realm of understanding that they're just like, oh, I don't want to brush my teeth, and it's a fight to do it.
Yeah.
But little one, I'm saving you. You don't want the cavities. You don't want the dentist visits. This is going to be painful in the future. Just trust me. I know you don't understand why, but just please take my word for it. And I always think about when I'm not understanding something, it's like God talking to me and I'm a 4-year-old.
Yeah. That is such a beautiful example that I feel like can relate to just a plethora of examples in life.
Yeah. And Jesus understands that, there's things that he doesn't want you to go, like as a mom, I'm just kind of like, I've lived through all of this. Let me share my knowledge with you so you don't have to go through this pain.
Yeah.
But ultimately they have free will and they want to live their way. And even though you know better, they're going to do it anyway. And that's their path.
I liked that they showed more of Dominus and his relationship with Matthew. And it's just really sweet because when another Roman soldier told Dominus, hey, there's a huge crowd, I need your help. Dominus is like, okay, Matthew, take the day off, see you later. Matthew's like, I'll come with you. He's like, no, like I have to be busy. I can't protect you. I have other things to do. He goes, how do you think I get on with the rest of my life?
He was so quick with it. Why is he so adorable?
I know. And then when he was sitting on the roof with Abigail and her friend, it was just so cute.
I told you they'd come back.
So cute.
Isn't it that scene I love so much because they're just like, oh yeah, we know him. Yeah. But the way that these children act with Jesus is so pure and I love it.
Yeah.
I know how Matthew dies.
What?
They obviously don't show it, but how the disciples die.
I've never even thought of that. That's like...
You haven't heard about how the disciples die?
Not that I recall.
Oh my gosh.
It's just like in the Bible?
It's really bad. But it's actually one of my favorite things because, till their death, they did not deny who Jesus was. Like
in this episode, Jesus is like, Simon, you go ahead, be with your Ema. It's really important to be with your family. He should be like, wow, Jesus, thank you so much. This is so helpful. And instead, he's like, but I'm gonna stay with everyone and protect everyone. I want to be the protector. I want to be here. I want to be with you. I don't want you to tell me to go do something else.
Oh, it's funny that that's how you interpret it because I look at it so differently.
Okay, tell me.
I look at it as I feel like it's out of character for him to say no, that I don't know Jesus, only because he's so fearless. He's like a very domineering muscle man, wants to be the protector, and he's honestly like Jesus' right hand throughout this whole experience, and he wants to keep Jesus safe. And here Jesus is finally needing protecting, and he's like, oh, whoa. I mean, even Jesus, he renames him because his faith is so strong.
Yeah.
So that to me was it's surprising that he denies Jesus 3 times.
Yeah.
For me.
I like the way you explain that, and I can see that perspective. I think I'm looking for the pushback. And
I want to look up really quick why he changes his name, because there's a specific meaning to Simon, and
the name Peter comes from the Greek word rock or stone.
Yes, that's what it was. So he's so steadfast in his faith that Jesus renames him Peter, and I'm just like, his faith, like he sees how.
I love
so
that.
That's why I look at it just differently. But when you find out how the disciples died, because I know you and you don't like scary stuff. Let's just say none of them die of old age. None of them.
Yikes. Oh, that makes me want to throw up.
And I feel like the way Matthew dies makes me so sad. Why, Matthew? Why?
I don't like that.
Yeah. Do you just want to know?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Should we rip off the Band-Aid?
I mean, if it's in the Bible,
oh gosh. All right.
I
ready?
don't know why I've never thought about the disciples are such a target also.
They say, I don't know that it's in the Bible, but they say that this is how they died. James was killed by the sword in Jerusalem by King Herod. Peter was crucified in Rome and under Emperor Nero. Matthew was skinned alive. I know. I know.
What?
Matthew. Oh, it makes me so sad. Egypt. Oh, Mark died by being dragged by horses through the streets in Egypt.
This is like so intense.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Luke was hanged on a tree for preaching in Greece. Simon was cut in half with a saw.
These are just like in the Bible?
I don't think that this is listed in the Bible. It's just historical
People
record.
have report.
I don't. I don't think that
or-
this is in the Bible.
Yeah.
And then John has an interesting story. Now, it's said that John was put into a pot of boiling oil, okay, and came out unscathed.
Wouldn't that like be a whole story in the Bible, you think?
Well, he then goes on, I think gosh, guys, I hope I'm telling the truth on this one, because someone get fact checked so hard in the comment section. He was then, so he came out unscathed, and then what's the word when you send someone somewhere to live in isolation?
Exiled.
Yes, he was then exiled, and that's where he wrote the Acts. He wrote, which book of the Bible did he write?
John the Apostle wrote John 1, 2, 3, and Revelation.
Yeah, exiled is when he wrote the book of Revelation. Isn't that crazy? He went into a pot of boiling water, or boiling oil, not even water. He came out unscathed. I want to know, do you guys believe this? Because that's what I've heard about the disciples and how they died. It just is a testimony to their faith that they witnessed Jesus' life, his teachings, his crucifixion, his being risen from the dead. Jesus comes back as an angel, speaks to them, and then they go out into the world and spread the word of God. And at that point, seeing everything that they had seen, they tried to get them to admit that they were liars. And so they killed all of the disciples in brutal, disgusting ways just to get them to say that they were liars. And
that was intense. I'm like, woo, I need to go like shake that out.
Now every time I see Matthew, I get so sad. Poor Matthew.
That is insanity.
You do actually get to see a flash forward in an upcoming season of Mary and Matthew as older. Yeah, and they're in hiding.
Nice.
This is post Jesus. They're in hiding, so they finally meet up, and you'll
that
see
is so scary.
There's so much that you don't think of, right?
Yeah.
And then when you think of how did all of these people that followed Jesus, what were their lives like after him? They were in hiding. Mm-hmm. They could not. Mary lived in a cave until she died. Mary Magdalene. No one knows what happened to Mary, mother of God, for the record.
Oh. I never understood what the term Jesus freak meant, and as a kid, I was called it at school sometimes.
Can we all agree that Ava drops bombs? Catch me off guard. Go on.
You know, I used to wear I wasn't allowed to wear graphic t-shirts, but there was this one graphic t-shirt that my church was selling. It was like blessed, ? Blessed, period. Did you ever see those? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, it was this little trend, and it was like the only graphic shirt I was allowed to wear to school. And people at school would be like, what's on your shirt? And I was like, oh, Jesus. I'm fearless because of Jesus. Aww. And they're like, Jesus freak. Like, I was the Jesus girl. But I didn't understand, I didn't really care. I was unbothered because I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah.
But now, I'm watching this show, and I'm like, these people are Jesus freaks. They're like, yeah, Jesus. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I would be a little skeptical if this guy just started doing all these miracles. I mean,
okay, so the battery just died and we had to switch it, but Ava and I were just having a really good conversation off camera, and I kind of want to jump back into it. I've noticed now, because this is our 6th episode that we're filming, I know you've always grown up in the faith and your dad was a pastor, correct? Mm-hmm. So I guess my question is, it sounds a little bit like you might be questioning your faith or a little lost on your journey. Can you tell me what you're going through?
Yeah, not questioning my faith as a whole, but just seeing now in the show, The Life of Jesus, I feel like I grew up hearing these stories as a way to deepen our faith. Like, look how great our God is. I just never questioned my faith, really. But even in high school, like having friends of different religion, like my tennis doubles partner in high school was Buddhist, and I'd gone to the temple with her, like super cool. And I still was just like, that's cool, but that's not me. Now, seeing The Chosen, it's like, this is crazy. The life of Jesus, born from a virgin. Wild. I can't imagine living in that time. So I feel like I'm watching the show also with the perspective of, what if I've never heard these stories before? Would I just watch this show and believe them now?
Well, so there was, Cody didn't know anything about the Jewish faith when him and I first met, and so I had said something to him one day early in our relationship, and I think it was something along the lines of, oh, Catholics and Jewish people, we believe the same thing, except that they didn't believe that that Jesus was actually the Son of God. And he's like, wait, so you're telling me that Jewish people actually believed that Jesus existed? And I'm like, yeah, because there was a misunderstanding where he just thought that Jewish people didn't believe that Jesus ever existed, but Jesus was a real life man. There's no, there is historical evidence to support it. When you go to Israel, people know that Jesus existed. Jesus lived here. This was his house. This was Bethlehem. This is where he was born.
Yeah.
This is the temple he went to. He was a real life person that made an impact. This is not an imaginary human being that people wrote stories about. There's historical evidence that he was real. we're trying, people. It's all. This is an experience of two Christians that have been Christians our entire life, and we're just, figuring it out as an adult. Because I do think you just said something that I can absolutely agree with. You don't think, you know the stories of the Bible, but you don't think about the context of that time period where, okay, this is a sick person. He just went up to Jesus. Jesus healed him. Okay, now let's think about that person. That person has lived with this disease for probably most of their adult life and is completely shunned by society. People have seen him around town, know to stay away from him, and all of a sudden he walks back in town and he's completely healed. And no, he can't give any explanation as to why, because Jesus asked him not to. And then when you think about Jesus, I never thought about him being a celebrity figure, but you have people from every walk of life traveling to Capernaum just to sit outside the gates in hopes to see Jesus. That concept to me never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot that I think The Chosen does a beautiful job bringing to reality, and again showing us that Jesus was here and what a life of the Bible actually looked like.
One of my friends from college got baptized in the Jordan River. She just talks about being there and walking where Jesus was. It's such a spiritual and emotional experience. And she was like, that trip alone, she's always been a Christian too, but solidified her faith so deeply. And when she talks about it, her intense emotion, I'm like, I need to book a flight to go see that. I need to go there.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to experience that? That sounds incredible.
Yeah.
Cody and I talk about it all the time. We want to take the girls to Israel so bad when things die down.
Yeah.
Make sure to tune in and fact check us in the comment section. I will try not to cringe at this video. Hit the subscribe button and make sure that you hit the bell so you do get a notification for when our new episodes come out. Until then.